Innovation doesn't happen in isolation. At Zirkit, we believe the future is built by builders. That's why we're spotlighting exceptional builders everywhere, those building on complementary ecosystems and advancing Web3 for everyone. Whether you're building on Zirkit, building alongside us, or building something entirely new, this is your community. Welcome to Builders Showcase. Let's build the future together. Yeah, if you can give a little, brief introduction about yourself and what you're building.
Yeah, of course. First, thank you very much for having me today in this session. Also, I would like to welcome every attendees. I see that there's a great community number joining up, so it's always great to showcase and get feedback for the project that we are doing. So I just want to say that, guys, if you have any questions or you have any feedback, whatever ideas you have during this session, then please let me know in the comments. I will try to take a look and answer everything that I can for you guys. Feedback is always super appreciated, and eventually what we do is we build for you guys, so whatever your suggestion have is always something that we listen to. But yeah, a few words about myself. I am coming from banking background. I've been working for institutional banks for many years, almost 7. Then in 2016, I discovered blockchain, so that resulted in me skipping my enterprise job and start building on blockchain. We first started to build some DeFi applications, 2018, 19. We built an on-chain fund management system, but we wanted to be a little bit too compliant with that, and the regulation was just not ready at that time. So eventually, I decided to take a role as leading a core banking system. Build from 0 to 1, and that helped me a lot in understanding that what are the traditional regulatory expectations from crypto projects. And the funny thing is then when the regulation came to Mika, that those come in pretty handy. So eventually, most recently, I just felt that I have to get back to the strongest vibes of Web3 and crypto. So 2 years ago, I felt that Web3 games are not really achieving what they can with tokenization and user acquisition. So to be honest, first we wanted to build a game, but then we figured that building a game, even if it's a good one, that it's not enough. So we have to somehow figure out the best way to constantly onboard and then also activate users, so we don't constantly fall into the loop of reacquiring users and spending a whole lot of money in it. So I decided to take a look at how Web3 companies are growing, what they do, what are the metrics, and to be honest, I didn't like what I seen. So I mean, I don't want to put it the wrong direction, but my impression was that 90% of the traction in Web3 is somehow faked, even through followers, even through airdrop hunters and everything. So I just felt that we should do something about that, and that's how the idea of Orbit has born, and that's the project that we launched 6 or 7 months ago with an MVP, and right now we are basically preparing to make it a full suite, strong user acquisition tool and collaboration tool in the Web3 space.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you for giving that overview. Sounds like you took Web3 direction seriously. You took that and then essentially came and grew into a real product. So I guess before we begin with the future questions, actually, is it possible to see a quick demo of what Orbit is and how specifically what you're building right now?
Yeah, of course. I'm trying to share my screen. Can you guys see it?
Yes.
Okay, I think I see myself, but let me switch to this one. All right. Do you see the website? Do you see the screen?
Yes. So you see the screen perfectly.
Nice. So my idea was that I'm gonna show you guys how Orbit works at the moment, and then I'm gonna tell you about some new features that we would like to launch with you guys, and then I can showcase basically the Orbit 2 version, which is still in progress. So it's basically running in my dev environment at the moment, but I can show you that where the new features gonna be and how the whole platform will look. Is that a good strategy, Paula? What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. So anything that outlines at a high level, so that works very well.
Gotcha. All right, let me try to wrap it up in 10 minutes, and then we can have a conversation if that's all right. So
Sounds good.
yep. All right. We built Orbit to help people collaborate in the Web3 space. And first, we had to figure out how we serve KOS in that manner, because KOS is still going to be a huge part in whatever grow, because every KOL or every community member is somehow going to be involved in go-to-market with the project. So the first idea was to build a two-sided marketplace that basically connects KOS with projects. And on that note, the idea is super simple. We created a register interface for KOS. They were able to come in and set up their KOL profile. They could either come in through X validation or manually set up a profile. Important thing here is that we validate every KOL who comes here. So even through automated X validation or through manual approval, we only list KOLs who are actually on the account that they actually list. What KOLs can do is that they can fill out some important details regarding to how they work, what they do, and what kind of content they create, and what's their typical payment structures as well, including with focus areas. As you can see, we have KOS with the top with over 1 million followers, but our actual focus was more on low tier, tier 3, tier 4 KOS. And the reason is because we fear that in the current market, large KOS are exhausted. They have been on the market for years. They have been promoting projects which were eventually not that successful. So paying tens of thousands of dollars to high-profile KOS, we don't really see that that's happening. However, even a KOL with a few thousand followers, they can actually bring you more, maybe even more members than their actual than the actual follower number is. So follower number is a thing, but what we eventually want to care more about is the content and the actual quality that they create. But yeah, first thing, KOS. Then we listed projects. Projects basically can come in, they set up their typical social fi profiles, and with that, they introduce the project to the audience. We have onboarded more than 30 projects in the very first month, basically. After that, we started to rather focus on the new features, but you can see we have projects like Astronova, Alderune, Maxi, ZoomX, Yom, CoinStore. We're not just focusing on games in this manner, because eventually the platform will not just serve games, it's going to be serve everybody who is in the Web3 space and then probably beyond. So on that note, we support every project in Web3 who somehow wants to build community or wants to interact with KOS in the current stage. What these projects can do, for example, check out our detailed page, is first show information, but show information in a way which is super easy to digest and super to the point. So we don't want huge paragraphs, we don't want endless documents, and people just don't read nowadays that many of information. So what we do is that we really digest to the crucial information. For example, like you pitch your project to a VC where you have 10 minutes. So here basically you have 1 minute to convince someone to be interested in your project. So what we do is a quick showcase about what the project is about, quick links, collaborations already, and fast track information that what you need to do to get on board to the project, and also public due diligence is what we consider the secret sauce of the project. This is basically the fields that usually you need to put into a pitch deck, and we create a really digested version here too. All these sections are to validate the project and to decide whether it's a good one or not for KOS and eventually gamers. And then the most important part, what KOS can do here, is that they can apply for different projects. That's what we call missions. And a mission is a call for a KOL, a mission, a task that a KOL can do. You can have some really easy setups, and you can have more complicated ones. It's totally custom to the project. So basically, once you set it up, you set that which project you do it for, give a name to it, decide what you want to do for the KOL, and set up the compensation, what you can offer for these roles. And if a KOL would like to apply for this custom mission based on the description, then they can come in and click apply. This is a mission where KOLs can deliver memes to the project, and in exchange they get some allocation of the future token. And as you can see, all KOLs can be accepted, approved, or denied in the corporation. So a project doesn't have to automatically work with everybody. They can check on the profiles and decide that who they want to work with. And it's not just selection, but KOLs can also submit their deliveries and also their compensation address in the platform. So what we are trying to do here is just make it much more easier for KOLs to collaborate with project. But this was the first mainly manual version. So where are we headed from here? We're gonna launch 3 new really important feature packages. One thing will be on-chain rewards. So instead of manual transactions when a KOL is compensated, what we are going to set up is a smart contract escrow, a smart contract vault, which is able to be populated by the studios with the mission rewards. And once a specific KOL is approved for delivery, basically using the same functions that we already have, just with an additional on-chain reward management contract, once the KOL is approved, then the KOL can directly withdraw the amount from the vault into their personal wallet. This is, to be honest, the most obvious feature that we could launch in this system, and the whole idea here is that we want to eliminate the on-chain payment friction. We want to eliminate the issues that, for example, the KOL is sending a wrong address, or the project says that they sent the money but they can't actually prove it. And also in that regards, projects basically don't have to individually discuss payment details and also sending amounts with particular KOLs. So basically just make it easier to collaborate. And on the other hand, KOLs can see exactly that the project is funded, there is money there, so they can believe that, okay, they are going to actually be compensated. But there are still some manual elements in it. So the other big feature that is coming is automated on-chain rewards, and this will not only consider on-chain metrics on the same network, but we are going to actually introduce a custom reward system where any game or any project on any platform can actually use Orbit as an automated reward engine. So imagine that you have the block on-chain functionality, but there's an API to Orbit through which you can set your metrics and we pick it up automatically. So for example, if you have a mini game on Telegram, but it's connected to Orbit, then for the mini game you can launch campaigns in Orbit where the KOLs receive on-chain compensation, and the amount and the approval is happening through an API which is directly connected from your Telegram, Steam, whatever game into Orbit. So there's a traction element here where we automatically allocate that which KOL has the right to call a certain amount. We update it automatically in the reward system, and then the KOLs can eventually call all the rewards automatically. This basically allows projects to collaborate with hundreds of KOLs eventually, and have a fully automated growth engine, and they would also have the ability to decide what is the actual reward that they, or the actual step that they want to reward. So if they want to reward just referrals, they can do. But if they want referrals with actual spending in the game, for example, $1 worth of whatever, then you can set this as a campaign. If you want to set up a custom campaign where you say that, okay, we only compensate KOLs for users who has actually been active for 2 consecutive weeks, then that's your call. Eventually, the projects will be able to decide what they want to reward, and then that will feed into Orbit, and Orbit will release automatically the rewards to the specific wallets. And this also showcases a third huge audience that we are opening Orbit up. So far we talked about studios, streamers, just the 2 of them, like influencers, but we're also gonna open up Orbit for gamers. So gamers will be eventually able to register to Orbit. They will have their own suite which they can use, and they can also interact with the titles that are listed in Orbit. And this is a really early version of how this is gonna look. So as you can see, compared to how the project and the whole platform looked earlier, we are making a more dense, more concentrated interface. This will function similarly, for example, like a one-pager, how you, for example, Pump Fund has been launched in the very first setups. There we are going to list the games where you have their special profiles. We are going to have the players will have different measures that how they can prove that they are achieving and they are making progress. And we're also going to introduce some social features like the live feed where you can actually discuss stuff. So it's going to be a combination of a social and a growth platform. And each player we have like a specific rank, and they will basically compete in activities. And how we are going to fuel this whole operation, this is one of the most important part actually probably today's, is that we are going to launch runs. Runs is basically tournaments which go from 1 month to a few months, and the first launch will be called Ignition, and that's going to be a $25,000 competition based on activity in orbit. So it's going to run for a few months, and players are going to compete on which player is going to have the most visions from the different categories. So we're going to, once we launch Orbit V2, then we're going to launch this tournament, and this is basically how we want to reward players to get active as soon as possible. This is the completely new feature sets that you can see here. Regarding to the current version, that's going to feed into the Grow page. So instead of like separate files in separate access, we are going to have like a really dense, focused interface for that too. Give me a second for loading, because right now I am a local host and that's a little bit smaller, and we go with a little bit smaller capacity, so it takes more time to load. But as you can see, there are the familiar elements that you already seen in the first presentation. So we're going to have the projects, we are going to have the KOLs, and we are going to have the missions. However, the missions are going to be more sophisticated. So what you will be able to see is that each mission we have these 2 additional tags. One is automation. This will mean the automated rewards, and the other is on-chain, which means that there's going to be an on-chain reward element incorporated where KOS can directly claim the rewards when they are delivering the mission. And let me stop here. It took a little bit more than 10 minutes to describe, but this is the full package.
Not a problem. Actually, very quick question. So you mentioned a separation between the automated rewards and the on-chain rewards. What is the difference between each?
There are 2 separate things that you can set up in 2 different ways. Automated rewards usually will go with on-chain as well. So on-chain is something that can go individually, and that requires manual approval on the delivery. But if you put the automation in it, then you can combine the 2, and so you can have on-chain rewards plus automation. That's basically from a founder's perspective who wants to grow, I think that's the most convenient way to grow eventually.
Gotcha. And are all the rewards essentially allocated like through like in an on-chain nature? Like the automated rewards maybe will have some certain conditions met, but I guess are payouts all done on-chain, like the USDT rewards and such?
There's flexibility. So of course the most secure and most convenient thing is if you have on-chain rewards, but right now basically project can set it up in any way. So there's a custom reward category. So even if they want to allocate a token which is not issued yet, but they reserve allocations for certain people, then they can even add this as a reward. We give flexibility to select what kind of rewards they are providing, and we also encourage and we also review every mission that is being posted on Orbit. So if there is someone who wants to launch a mission and they submit it, then we approve it, and if there is any information that is not clear for potential KOS, then we adjust it with the project. I think that's one of the USPs as well that we want to put into this progress. Of course, later on it can be automated, but I think one of the key differentiation towards existing social fi platforms like Tascon is that those platforms fuel this fake traction and vanity growth. So not to mention that 95% of the users are probably fake in each of them, even though whatever KYC or validation that they are claimed to do. They do the standardized things, and the standardized things are typically for social increase and airdrop hunters, because they can't be that customized. So with our customization, projects can actually set up and measure traction that actually matters for them, not just step into another follower growth structure. So on that note, if they want that, they can use that. But if they want actual growth with revenue and everything, that's what we build Orbit for.
Cool. I like that distinction. When you mention I would say like projects setting their own parameters for the evaluation. And then you also said that projects are able to set their own parameters for, I would say like bot prevention. Would this be like a form of an SDK? Like would projects build it into their current applications and then essentially set the level? Because you demonstrated a flow where within the automated way you were able to earn, you're able to essentially get the user to earn certain rewards for certain actions. So for example, if they register, and in those cases, there might be like more in-depth ways that you want to reward. Maybe they achieve like a high score of some sort. Would this be like an SDK that people can that other projects can plug into their applications, or how do you see that system being used to automate things like evaluation criteria as well as the overall like action? Yeah.
Yeah, no, I get the question. Exactly. So first, we are going to launch an open API. So we're going to have like an open API that everybody can connect to, and if they want access to it, then we will approve the project, and then they will get the technical key to call our APIs. This is a simpler solution to call from their backend, because that doesn't require to put in any source code that we developed into their application, like an SDK. But if later we want to have like a more sophisticated, fully automated version, then we are planning to launch an SDK where they can set up everything within the application that's connected to Orbit, and then everything can be like totally automated. But that's more likely stage 2.
Awesome. Okay, that good distinction. So, when using Orbit for social growth, like when you have like a separation of the different KOLs and so essentially KOLs can potentially like submit. Is there a vetting process? Can projects essentially choose the KOLs that they want to be onboarded to specific campaigns? And I guess like how flexible are these? Like are there concepts of like private campaigns that people can register for or apply to? Like I guess like how open or restrictive can things be?
Yeah, so on first note, the platform is super open. So we basically list every project, every KOL for anybody who even looks at the platform. So if you just want to have like a list of KOLs in Web3, you can come into Orbit and you just call it. You don't even need to register. If you want to see the full details of a KOL, like typical compensation rate, then you need to register. But that's also totally free, by the way. And registry is basically just one click on the platform. Regarding to distinction between different KOLs, so one of the project is listing a mission, then they see all the KOLs who has applied to the mission, they can approve individually if they want to work with the given KOL or not. And once they click approve, then we also unlock direct messaging channel. So if they approve the KOL that they want to work with the KOL, then the KOL will see the direct contact of the project, and the project will also see the direct contact of the KOL. Besides the X link. So X is visible, but if they want to see the Telegram of the KOL, then they will also see that. So even we do facilitate that interaction between projects and KOLs. That's also free on the platform. Actually, everything is free on the platform as of today. So it's still super, how to say, convenient. And but the last piece is that we want to we actually launched a mission last week where we are gonna build like alpha KOS. Alpha KOS are kind of vetted KOS, so they are the ones who we can vouch for as an Orbit team. So we are gonna have them try our task. We are gonna investigate how they operate, and based on that, we out of the 300 KOS right now have on our platform, or actually 380 or 90 right now. We are gonna have like few dozen, depending on how many quality KOS we can have, and they are gonna be the alpha KOS, and they will form like a subgroup, and they are the ones who will be recommended in Orbit. So that's how we also want to support, the quality and the verified proposals here. Eventually, our goal is to clear this Web3 thing up, because I think that's something that we can all agree on, is that extremely lot of noise here. Good projects got lost either in marketing budgets or with vanity metrics, or it's even sometimes super difficult to find a good project because there are so much noise here. So one of our goals is to make it clear that which are the good projects, which are the good providers, which are good KOS who you can trust. So I think the other distinction towards other SocialFi platforms is that we want to build trust, and we want to have like a trusted platform, because otherwise it's just vanity.
Got it. Yeah, and that's very important key distinction, for that you want to make from other platforms, is that you don't want to focus on the vanity, but actual results based. So I think that's a really really important distinction, and glad that you're focused on that, like results focused rather than vanity style. That I guess might be more prevalent on other let's say.
There are gonna be many projects or many provider who doesn't like that, but I mean, eventually I think that's something that we can be proud of if we are at least headed that way, right?
Yeah, of course, sustainable actions, and then your ability to customize those rewards, very important. So you mentioned that the platform is free to use. I guess in the future, I'm assuming that might not be the case. What would be the economics of a typical campaign? Like, how does Orbit make money in this case?
Yeah, so we're gonna have two rails. One thing is on the on-chain reward mechanism. We are Everything is gonna be free to initiate on the platform, so not gonna be paywalls to actually start any features. But the plan is that we are gonna take a small cut, like a few percentage on the rewards that has been processed through Orbit, and by that not the manual rewards, but the actual on-chain rewards, which goes into the wallets, into the Iskra, and then allocated into KOS. But that's not gonna be a lot, so just a few percentage, and depending on what kind of assets or what kind of network you are launching on, there's gonna be different numbers there. We're also planning to launch our own layer, and I mean not layer, but our own token, and of course, with that, there might be benefits to use to support long-term growth.
Awesome. Glad to hear that there's future revenue opportunities. I guess
Yeah.
a few final questions before we wrap up. So, you are you're looking at essentially like the projects as well as the KOL. So you're creating basically this market for like a marketplace for projects to find KOLs, and also KOLs to find projects. So when creating a marketplace, there might be difficulties in attracting either side. So whether it be like the project side or the KOL side, how do you address those difficulties, and what is your overall strategy to help balance out that those connections?
Yeah, and the chicken and egg problem, right? That every two-sided platform is facing with. I think there are two things. So one thing is that our goal is to really ease up the collaboration between these stakeholders. So basically, how we plan our features is that we have a look at, okay, what these guys are doing or what these guys want to do on a daily basis, and try to make it much more easier than the current solutions. And I think matching projected KOS, we basically had two ways before Orbit. Either you start direct messaging KOS on Telegram and X, and you end up with hundreds of direct messages, which even require a couple of people on a daily basis to manage, or you engage a marketing agency who does the same, but for endless amount of money, and you don't even know what happens in the back. So first we wanted to make it easier and make it transparent and make it just connecting people for free. That was the first idea, and make this collaboration automated. But on the second hand, you also need the killer features that eventually make it secure the operation. So for example, that's why we launched the on-chain automation systems, because that's what eventually make this thing go forward. And eventually, if there is one really strong primitive that we keep in development, is that and this is also a long-term strategy, that is the law of least effort, which means that basically people will eventually choose a solution where they have the less obstacles to reach a certain goal. So if we say that even though there are competitors there, but our goal is to make it everything super simple, reachable with just a few clicks and automated, then eventually that's something that makes sense to use. So if we build it in a good way, then people will like it because it makes their life easier. So we just continuously put in those features. It's really simple, to be honest. So yeah, let's see how it
Cool.
goes.
Yeah. Listening to feedback as well as and then applying that within the product. I think like the best bet for making things work with these different projects. And of course, you are making things simpler rather than the 100 or so Twitter DMs that you typically have to do when using like these types of KOL networks, or you speak to an agency which might charge an arm and a leg for connecting to KOLs that might not lead to the best impact. So in this way, it's more of a hub for different projects to connect, and influencers as well. So
Indeed, indeed, and that's why we bring in players, because the whole thing is about bringing in users, bringing in players to the platform. So I mean, it's just platform is just not whole without covering the needs of the actual user. So even though that we started with like this two-sided marketplace between KOS and projects, the real growth will eventually kick in when the KOS are actually activating users who are already in orbit and they have a collaboration feature, or players have a collaboration capability with the actual projects. And where we are headed with all these AIs, and everybody is basically searching in ChatGPT instead of directly chatting with the customer support agents on site, is that people will want to have a single channel communication and resolution towards everything that they are doing. So even if we eventually, if we build a tool for Web3 players to collaborate, then our idea is that why don't they collaborate through one platform with every game that they can do? And that's what we eventually do. So once we launch the Orbit Play interface, is that we are going to be able to list any games there, and people will be able to interact with those games, list features that they want from the games, list secret sources like tips that they do in the specific games, they can talk about it. And that's eventually our growth strategy. So we activate the games, let's say Axie Infinity. We have never talked with Axie Infinity, but we are going to list Axie Infinity on the platform, and we're going to reach out to Axie Infinity that, hey, Axie Infinity, we have 5,000 players requesting these features. Do you want to say something about that? And then okay, yeah, you're free to register, and then you can start interacting with the user base here. So that's basically the growth strategy eventually, to create the collaboration, and then the collaboration to feed in the actual projects.
I like that. Having a central hub for essentially feeding in different types of attention, feedback, like and any type of mechanisms that projects would find useful. Definitely can see that being used and where projects see the value, but as well as the KOLs see the value in terms of the rewards, and then also the additional exposure maybe from working with these projects. I guess for the final question, um, why specifically Zirkit? Why choose the Zirkit for the launch of Orbit? Um, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that should be a simple one, right? So one thing is security. So the way that you structure their platform, we're eventually gonna store what we launch what's on behalf of projects and KOS, and of course we want to have that secure. And the other thing is that we are gonna have. I mean, if we are just moderately successful, then we are gonna have thousands, hundreds of thousands of players who are going to receive constant microtransactions for their achievements in the games, possibly automated. So we really need the platform which is not going to stuck when we actually reach the transaction. That doesn't cost a lot to process this transaction, because eventually the more we can save on the operation, then the better for it. The better it is for the whole ecosystem. And lastly, we also wanted to select a network which deserves to be known in the wider Web3 ecosystem. So, and we know that you guys are doing some pretty important things in the Web3 space, because besides trust, I think security is a really important feature that we constantly have to get back to when all these things are happening out there. So on that note, I think there's a cultural fit as well regarding to how you guys are building your ecosystem, which we resonate with, quite frankly. So I think these are the ones that I would start with.
Awesome. Great to hear, and like that you're focusing on the security and low cost, and that innovation perspective. But thank you so much for hopping in and telling us a bit more about Orbit and where your direction is. I definitely think that it's a really beneficial product, especially when hunting for both sides of the spectrum of needing to help projects, but also needing to help KO highly active and highly engaging KOLs to be matched with those projects as well. So I definitely see that as being a good path forward. And before actually we wrap up, is there anything that you'd want to say to the wider community, developers? It could be anything that you'd want to leave as final thoughts.
Yeah, I think on one hand, thank you very much for inviting me today. I really appreciate the opportunity. It would be a pleasure to work with you guys in the long term. And yeah, regarding to anyone who has a chance to see this or hear about this, I think one thing that is really important is that we are going to launch Orbit V2 soon. So whatever happens, we are going to launch the first tournament in this year, so that worth being early there. And on the other hand, if there's any project who is in the same situation building, I think the important note here is that we are not just building it for ourselves. So we basically build it for every project, every KOL, every gamer out there. So if you guys would be happy to see that how Orbit can help this, then never be worried to reach out, because we are open for these discussions.